Hello everybody, and welcome to another Pathfinder Online segment. We're going to be talking to you a couple things today. We have, first of all, we're going to go over our last class, which we just had, and also a couple questions that we had from a client online. So, just like to go over a few things that we talked about in our last class, which was Save the Investor, Save the World, which was on Wednesday. And we discussed the importance of not only how democratic societies help to spur on freedoms of human rights, thoughts, ideas, but also how you're able to tap into the greatest wealth creation tool known to mankind, which is entrepreneurism. When you invest in free market societies, you are hooking into this tool and helping to spread your investment philosophy all over the world. Can you even imagine that when you invest, that you're actually helping spread your resources to people all over the world? Well, if you look right now in your portfolio, we are helping over 14,000 different companies. If there were countries, not many countries, that'd be great. 14,000 different companies in over 42 different countries. You know what? You are making a difference in the world, and we are helping to save the world one investor at a time. You know, global free markets, it's an amazing thing. So right now we're going to go over to Phil. Why don't you tell us a little bit about next month, what we're going to be talking about, and the questions that came over for us.
Sure, Phil. Thank you. Well, next month our coaching class will be developing your personal investment philosophy. You know, so often people decide they want to come in and they want to invest their money, but they haven't developed a complete philosophy about investing. And so we believe you need to put the horse before the cart. You need to develop your own personal investment philosophy first, and then tie that in with your investment technique, with your particular strategy. So we'll be doing that next month at Midway Village. Make sure you're at that particular coaching class. It'll be a very important class, to be sure. So last week a question came in from one of our investors, Dennis Wentz, here in Rockford. And it's a two-part question, so let's go over his question. The first part of his question asks this: we have heard this week about a new tax on investment dividend income. Can we get some details about that? Well, Dennis, yes, we can comment about it. Now, we want to preface our particular comment by saying this first. We don't give tax advice. We'll give you some general overview of how the tax rules do work. But at the end of the day, really, you should consult with your tax professional with regard to these questions. Now, let me give you some background on this tax ruling. Back in 2003, Congress passed the Jobs and Growth Tax Relief Reconciliation Act of 2003. That's a mouthful. But basically what it did, it introduced the concept of a qualified dividend. And this qualified dividend can be taxed at a reduced. Prior to the 2003 Act, those dividends were taxed at a maximum rate which equaled ordinary income tax. However, under the qualified definition of tax for that qualified dividend, those taxes go to a maximum of 15%. So if you're in a lower tax bracket, you know, that particular tax would be 5 or 10%. And so for a lot of people, that would either reduce or eliminate taxes on qualified dividends altogether. Now, the qualified dividend only pertains to stocks that are domestic, U.S. stocks and U.S. Domestic mutual funds. Now, what's interesting about this particular rule is that there is something called a sunset provision that kicks in. At the end of the year, as of January 1st, 2011, the tax rates revert back to ones prior to 2003. And so those particular tax rates will go as high as 35% for the upper brackets. What's interesting is that the capital gains rate will also change. And so those of us who have enjoyed the lower capital rates over the last few years will lose that advantage, and for the first time in 23 years, that tax rate will go from 15% to 20% maximum for those in the highest tax bracket. The second part of Dennis's question is very interesting, and it goes like this. Some commentators are talking about our 401ks being confiscated or somehow changed by the government. Do you have any details on that, and as truth, or is it fictional? Well, Dennis, that's really an interesting comment or concept. There's a lot of talk on the radio, commentators and talk radio celebrities that have really been batting this particular topic around. especially since the Democrats have taken over the White House and Congress. And so we have to understand that really at this point it is rumor. Now we're not saying that it would not happen. We have to understand that tax rules do change from time to time. But with all the credible sources that I've read and credible commentators in the financial world that I've listened to, the rumor cannot be substantiated at all. So I would say that the answer is no, that it's not likely to happen. Now let me give you a little background on 401ks. Back in 1974, ERISA was passed by the Congress, and what this rule basically said was that we're going to expand the concept of 401ks, and at that point pension plans basically expanded from employers funding pension plans to employees funding their own pension plans. And so the shift went from the old-fashioned qualified pension plan more toward the self-directed 401k plan that employees fund themselves. So it took the burden off of the employer and placed it upon employees to fund their own pension plan. So that's very important to know. And today, 80% of all the companies out there no longer have a qualified pension plan, the old-time type pension plan. They have 401k plans if they have anything at all. Now, it would be kind of a stretch to say that that Congress will confiscate our 401k plan. What they're probably more likely to do, in my opinion, is kind of tinker with the traditional IRA and the traditional Roth IRA concept. That's happened in times past. And so I don't see them confiscating 401ks anytime real soon. Congress is a little bit reluctant to really pass laws that affect themselves and their families, in my opinion. And so it'll be a stretch to say that Congress is going to do this, if they do it at all. They'll probably tinker with the smaller plans. The 401k is pretty much a tradition now. And so the Roth IRA, traditional IRA, is probably going to be more of a target for that kind of thing in the future. Now, that being said, we have to understand the rules for Roth IRAs and traditional IRAs have been expanded over recent years. So I don't see that particular area being affected soon as well. But here's the important thing about 401ks, traditional IRAs, and Roth IRAs. Regardless of what's going to happen in the future, we encourage you, if you're still in the workforce or if you're contributing to traditional IRAs or Roth IRAs, continue to do so. We've had people that say, I don't want to put money back into a 401k plan, for instance, because the employer is not matching. Well, that's not very smart. You need to continue to contribute to your 401k whether your employer contributes or not. That's money going directly into your pocket, and they say every dollar makes a huge difference when it comes time to retire at age 65. So we want to say, regardless of what the rules say 5 years from now or 10 years from now, continue to contribute to those particular plans. And so, Dennis, I hope that gives you some assurance that the government's not going to come in and confiscate the 401k tomorrow. And so we want you to know that you don't have to know everything about investing to be successful, but a few of the right things. So this is Phil and Phil Gusky signing off from our telecast today. Have a great weekend.